Hello, my name is Chad Marshall, and this is Group 6 for our undergraduate presentation. And we had made the Health mobile app in Flutter and Dart. So for our IDE, we use Visual Studio Code. It's a very light and simple editor that has an integrated terminal, which is very helpful when having to run the app and install packages and whatnot. And then here on the left, you can go ahead and see a little taste of what our app has as far as listing out activities that the user does. And here's what Dart code looks like over here on the right. And you can also see a little bit of our file structure. So we have a lot of fun with Visual Studio Code. Next is our source control and repository hosting service. So for our source control, we use Git. Git is awesome. But really what I like is GitHub. So GitHub is our hosting service that we pretty much store our repositories on since birth. And so on the left here, you can go ahead and see what our repository looks like for the app. And on the right here, you can see me showing off my repositories here. We actually use two repositories for this project. One is a private repository, which stores pretty much what you see here. And then we also have an empty repository that is public that we used for our bug tracker which is a functionality in the app where the user, if they find a bug, they can report it. And that report then gets sent to the GitHub. We actually post to the GitHub API, and it creates a issue on the empty public repository. And it's just simpler if it's public as far as the GitHub OAuth is concerned. Next is how we communicate. We use Discord. I think everybody at this point in time uses Discord. I don't really like Slack. We also have weekly meetings, and then that attendance is taken and recorded. And as far as our individual roles, I think Josh records what we do during those times. And then it's put inside the items covered, as you can see. So Discord is used for our communication, especially for informal meetings. I mean, it's awesome nowadays being able to get with our group members at any point in time and ask questions or help solve problems. And so, yeah, I mean, here is our attendance pretty much up to the meeting of today. That has been recorded. Next. So our mobile platform. Hooray! Our mobile platform is, the code is written in Dart. However, it is leveraging the Flutter framework, which is created by Google. The main point of the app is to record accelerometer data. And we use the Sensors Plus package created by fluttercommunity.dev. As I stated previously, the app does consume many APIs in order to aggregate data for the user's viewing pleasure. And then here on the right, you can see that here is a JSON object I think from the COVID API that we implement for the user to see the COVID news. Next, here's our cloud platform. So we use Firebase, and specifically in Firebase, we use Cloud Firestore. And so the accelerometer data is, of course, sent to Firebase, and then we can also retrieve that data if we're wanting to list out the activities like you saw in the very first or second slides of this presentation. And also, we can also display that data graphically in the form of a chart. And we use a Flutter package. I can't remember the name of the package off the top of my head, but we are able to display the data very cleanly inside the app using a convenient package. We also do store a number of other information like journal entries. I think we call them logs in this context. And we also store doctors' information. And so the user they have a list of doctors that's special to them, and they can tap on a doctor's name and send them an email from inside our application. I think we also end up using a email API to do that. Or rather, a package built upon an email API to grant higher functionality. Now, here is our product backlog. So at the very, 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 very start of the project, we went ahead, we filled out a product backlog with as many user stories as we can come up with, just to fill the log, and then we were able to then partition those roughly into what we thought we could finish each sprint. And then with the assistance of Microsoft Project, we could then further graph out how the subsequent sprints would go. Now here is our sprint backlogs for every single sprint thus far. We're actually in the middle of sprint backlog 4 at the moment. We're not done yet with sprint backlog 4, but we're super close. We're very close to finishing the product backlog, which is an awesome thing. Now, we usually have our code freezes on the second Wednesday of each sprint, and that way it gives the criteria tester, acceptance tester, enough time to get through acceptance testing, which is quite a bear. So we are currently in the middle of sprint 4, actually near the end of it, but as you can see, here's the acceptance testing done by Steven. And then, of course, someone else tests Steven's criteria. For ethical reasons, of course. Next is our difficulties. So, completing sprints on time. That's probably that's probably the biggest one. It's not necessarily completing the sprint, but normally, it's not unusual for someone to have leftover user stories, child user stories, or maybe even an epic that would need to be pushed to the next sprint. And so that also leads into the third point with juggling sprint work around other large projects. We did kind of start this project in the middle of the semester, and so, if I remember the capstone presentation, I think it was 4 sprints, 2 weeks each sprint, and so I think this was close to the same duration of the capstone project. Of course, save the bug fix week that some professors might have. But yeah, just other large projects. It's not the worst thing, and plus we had the opportunity to use Flutter and Dart, which we've already all of us used before, and so that was actually a really large help. We didn't really branch off into using new technologies. And so keeping up with documentation, that's a second thing. So because we didn't have that accountability of having to submit documentation work each sprint, it made it very easy to slack on documentation, keeping that updated, having acceptance criteria written, fleshed out. And so that was also one thing that was difficult to keep up with. And last of all, I think most important of all, Flutter's null safety. Back when I took mobile apps, we didn't have null safety. But now that I'm back in using Dart and Flutter, nothing can be null. Why can't we just get the power back to the programmers? Okay, so jokes aside, for the task assignments, at the start of the first week of every sprint, usually maybe the Thursdays are usually our meeting. So the first Thursday of each sprint, we would then divide the remaining user epic stories among each of us based on our what we've pushed from previous sprints, and again the project progress map that we made in MS Project really helped. We were able to progress. We were able to have a good representation of how our last few weeks would go. All right, I believe that is it. Thank you so much for watching.